for the National Chapter Award. So we're going to kind of keep things short and simple, hopefully tonight, to be able to keep things easy for you guys and kind of keep things simple. And I'll be the first one to say, by no means am I an expert on the National Chapter Award, but hopefully we'll be able to keep things kind of simple for you guys here in terms of judging. So with round one judging, we're basically trying to make sure that the applications meet the basic standards to advance to round two. So round two judging is where they'll will actually be able to delineate or differentiate the applications from being gold and silver, from bronze and superior there as well. So our goal is to make sure we're being fair and consistent, and we score each application independently and for each part there. And so one of the biggest things that we're going to be looking for in round one really comes down to your ability to say yes or no. And so what that actually means, and the way that we're trying to keep it simple this year and make things work out, is that when you take a look at the rubric, which we'll show you here in a little bit, on the rubric it shows high points and mid points. If you think that that part of the application is high or mid points, then you'll award it a yes. If you think that that part of the application would be a low point category, then you award it a no. The great thing is that every application will be scored 3 times electronically, and so that way there is going to be some a balance or check and balance system there, because there's a certain number of yes marks that each application needs to get to be able to move to round two. So the goal and purpose of round one is to be able to mark yes or no for each different component of the application there. Couple of reminders: there is no limit to the number of chapters that can move on to round two, so just judge the application for what you see and how things work there. And each chapter deserves equal consideration. Remain objective. Your job is to judge the application, not the advisors, not the students in the chapter, but what is on the application, what the chapter has done there. Again, the results that are going to be shared or being posted, or what you're coming up with in round one, aren't going to be official until everything's said and done come our virtual state convention in July. So just make sure that you take those things into consideration. And again, your job is to say yes or no for round one judging. So now, what I believe John was telling me earlier, that everyone was able to get a copy of their score sheet. So everyone's score sheet will look something similar to this, except you'll actually have schools and sections and a link to the application there. I believe that you should be getting I believe 2 to 3 sections of applications to be able to sort through for round one, depending on the size of the application. So everyone on the first go-around for round one, you will be looking at all the individual activities on Form 1. And so Form 1 is kind of the check mark for Form 2 to be able to fill it out. And so as you go through it, to make sure, does the Growing Leaders leadership activity from Form 1, does it actually develop the technical human relations and decision-making skills to grow leaders? If you say yes, you'll just simply fill out the yes seal. If you say no, you're just going to fill out the no box there as well.
But if you hold 1 second, we've had a couple people not be able to hear, and I just want to make sure that they get that situation fixed before we move along. And I'm checking the chat bubble now to see if we're better.
Okay.
I was looking up. Okay. So if you're listening on the phone and not able to see the screen, we would like for you to be looking at the score sheet that Mr. Edgar has sent to you. If you're looking at that score sheet, that's what Buddy is showing on his screen right now. So if you're listening from the phone, we'll try to keep you posted on what to be looking at as Buddy's going through it. But right now, Buddy is going through the score sheet.
Yeah, and so
Thank you for letting me interrupt.
Oh, no problem, Mindy. I get told I need to slow it down occasionally here and there anyways. Yeah, so hopefully you guys are able to hear. Again, I'm going to try to make sure I'm paying attention to the chat box here as well. But yeah, on the form sheet, just make sure that whenever you're saying yes or no for each individual part of the application, that you're making sure that you're staying under the correct school and with the correct area there as well. So once you're going through Form 1, we're going to go through some different examples of some yeses and nos and how to grade or to judge each part of the application in terms of Form 2. with the activity descriptions, goals, plans of action. So that will be later on this presentation here as well. But again, our goal is to make sure to evaluate the application to say, yes, they meet the minimum standards for all the different parts of the rubric, or no, they do not. So in round one judging, what we are doing here is that you will actually look at the entire application for about 15 schools. So you will go through all 3 activities for growing leaders, all 3 for building communities, and all 3 for strengthening ag. So just make sure that you're able to kind of pace yourself there. Sometimes reading these can be a little bit long there. What's nice at the bottom, it will total your total numbers of yeses, your total number of no's. And so as you're going through round one of the big things we want, I would do as a check is to see under the missing column that should say you're missing 0. So the idea is that you've given a yes or no for every single box or option that you have in the application. So that's kind of a nice, quick way to see if you miss anything, just because there are 168 different boxes that you need to be able to click yes or no to. We are going to take some time to talk about deductions towards the end of this here today, but do denote that deductions will be handled by a separate committee, and so Mindy and John are kind of working towards that committee. I know myself and I believe Tim McDermott are on that committee, as well as a few others. So if you happen to think that an application deserves a deduction, just make sure that you can denote it in this area by saying, like, if you think it's growing leaders activity 1, GLA 1, and you can tell us what deduction that is there. And there's also a list or a hyperlink list of what the deductions are on the score sheet there as well, which again, we'll go through the deductions here in a little bit, but hopefully this score sheet, when you have it in person, it should be fairly simple and fairly easy for you to be able to go through it. So that is the score sheet there. Any questions on the score sheet that was sent out?
Hey, buddy.
Yep.
The score sheet, that's pretty self-explanatory, but at the bottom of it, you just said that to include or to specify those deductions. Also on that email from John, it's that Google form. How are those two documents different?
You can use either one. Whatever
Okay.
works. If you're in the score sheet and you want to add them there, or if you put them on the Google form, we consolidate them from both of those places to give to the deductions committee.
Okay.
Great question, Mitch. Thank you. And so if there's no other questions about the score sheet, one thing that I will point out too is just the actual rubric itself. So the nice part about the score sheet is that it is directly correlated to the rubric. So all of these descriptions under the high points category are the descriptions that are with the description on the side of your score sheet there as well. So when we're saying to mark yes or no on the application or your score sheet there, anything that you view as being in middle points or high points is going to be a yes. If you view it's a no points or low points area, that's going to be a no. So as you kind of start kicking things off in terms of your evaluation of the National Chapter Awards, it might take some time to be able to read through them, but I guarantee by the end of it, you'll know the rubric very well, and you'll be pretty confident in your ability to say yes or no. So this is something, that's a new kind of thought process that we had this year, actually providing the rubric saying, okay, yeses are middle and high points, no's are low points, but that should hopefully be able to provide some consistency and help give some direction in terms of how we want to move forward with things there. So there should be a copy of the rubric on the National FFA's website, and if you need one, feel free to shoot an email and I can share it out there as well, or have Mindy or John share it out there for everyone there. So again, the big rule of thumb is when you're scheduling or when you're going through the rubric and the scoring process there, all you're going to be marking is yes or no. A yes means that its value is a high or mid point on the rubric, and a no is a low or no point on that rubric there as well. So in terms of Form 1 judging, again, what gets really interesting there is that on the actual scoring sheet that John sent out, it does have all the quality standards there. And this one's a little bit more open-ended in terms of interpretation. And so what we've done on that scoring sheet is that there is this document that's opening up now is the division and quality standards from National FFA. And so again, all these little descriptions of leadership, healthy lifestyle, scholarship, all those can still be found on the score sheet that is sent out again for Form 1. So again, for the first part of the National Chapter Award on Form 1, your job is to be able to look at the activity that they have for each individual quality standard, and your job is to say yes, that activity is for that quality standard, or no, it is not. So on the reason why I like using the rubric here is it does give you some examples, so I can almost guarantee that you will see some kind of chapter officer leadership training for leadership or personal growth. You will see some kind of convention or conference, probably for leadership there as well. Scholarships, a lot of people do like their alumni scholarships and things like that. So you'll start to realize or some of the commonalities in between everything there. But just make sure, go with your gut instinct. It's really kind of the only way to judge Form 1, but everything there should be fairly simple to be able to say that. A rule of thumb that I kind of follow is that if you're starting to stare at something for a super long time and it's been there for about 30 seconds and you're trying to ask yourself, like, does this actually work? The longer you're looking at it, the answer is probably no. So just when I say go with your gut, make sure you're able to follow that kind of thought process there. You do want to be able to reward students for all the work that they've done this year, but if you're sitting there and really stressing about it, the answer is probably no for meeting that type of area there. Okay, so that's Form 1. Once you go through Form 1, which is just going through the different quality standards, can move on to Form 2. So Form 2, you have all the different components for each of the different activities, and we can kind of move through there. I'm going to make a note. That's a lot of beeps right there. Okay, anyway, so for activity description, so again, all these descriptions that are found here on this presentation, they're also found on the scoring process, they're also found on the rubric for the high points. But activity descriptions, the big question that you want to be able to see, or the two big questions, is does the activity, is the purpose of the activity clearly stated, and why the activity is taking place. To describe the activity, why the activity is taking place, and the purpose of it. So yes, it states the purpose of the activity and why, and no says it doesn't state the purpose or the why of the activity. So the first one here is an example of an activity description. So Operation Beautiful was a series of events used to promote positive things to our members, either in the chat bar or on your microphone there. Go ahead and tell me, is that a yes or a no by typing in yes or no? Corky Biswell, first one in. That is 100% no. So the idea is that, yes, we can look at this and we can see that we got the name of the activity and we're trying to do something positive, but does it tell us the purpose and why this activity is taking place? No. I can maybe argue that the purpose is to be positive or promote positive things. There's not a lot of description there. Activity description number 2, again, you're going to tell me yes or no. FFA members notice students discouraging their peers and others struggling with self-esteem. Operation Beautiful is designed to promote and improve mental well-being, self-esteem, and positive character traits of members. Members are encouraged to pay it forward through positive message boards, random acts of kindness, and thank you notes. Is that a yes or no? Perfect. I'm seeing the yeses rolling in here. And so a really great thing. There will be different types of formatting that you'll see in the application there as well, but I can kind of see here that the why is that FFA members noticed students were discouraging their peers to me, so that's the why of the activity. And the purpose is to promote and improve mental well-being, self-esteem, and positive character traits. And then this is how they're actually doing it there. So yes, this would be an example of a yes. Moving on to the next part, SMART goals. So making sure that goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Again, we've all heard about these parts here, some easy things to look for. Is there an actual date? Is there a number or something that can be measured there? Who is included or who is completing the goal? No, the goals that aren't SMART, they're super vague. They don't really have a necessary or aspect that can be measured here. So for this for SMART goal practice, FFA members will post 600 positive messages around the ag building to help promote positive self-esteem by January 31st, 2019. Is that a SMART goal, yes or no? And I see some yeses. That's very good. So the good part is here is that I can see who is doing the goal. That's FFA members. What's being measured is the 600 positive messages. And then the date that it's going to be taking place is by January 31st. So I can kind of see all different parts and pieces there. So this next one, FFA members will post positive messages. Is that a SMART goal? Drum roll, please. 100%. That is not a SMART goal. I really have no idea what they're measuring here. So there's no idea what can be measured. There's no time stamp or date with it. That is not a SMART goal. You guys are doing phenomenal here. Okay, there's a couple little things in terms of plan of action. So we are looking for what, where, how, and who in terms of the plan of action. So there's a lot of different parts and pieces for the plan of action and different types of formats that you'll see on the application. But to kind of keep things simple, we want to know what they're doing, where the activity is taking place, how they're going to accomplish this goal and how it's going to be implemented, and who is in charge of the plan of action. What I always tell myself is by the end of reading the plan of action, you should be able to say, yes, I know how they're going to accomplish this goal, or you could take the plan of action itself and accomplish the goal yourself. So yes, you're going to save all parts are listed. No, if you're missing some of the parts there as well. This one gets interesting because there's a lot of different styles. So I'm going to show you 3 different styles for the plan of action that you can more likely see all three styles, and all 3 of these styles say the exact same thing. They're just formatted differently. So basically on style 1, on January 8th, 2019, the Healthy Lifestyles Committee members will meet to make a display poster and write 600 positive messages on individual post-it notes. Notes will be placed on the Operation Beautiful display area in the Ag building in the high school and middle school from January 21st to the 25th, 2019. So that's style 1. Style 2 is now we're going to be throwing in some parentheses, being able to highlight the who, the what, the how, the where, and the when. And style 3 is kind of more of a listed out format, where they're going to say who the who is the Healthy Lifestyles Committee, what they're doing, how they're going to do it, when, and where. So when we start looking at these plan of actions, all 3 of them say the exact same thing. Do you guys think we're going to say a yes for these plans of actions or a no? In 3, 2, 1. I see some yeses. Okay, 100% yes. They all include all the different parts of the plan of action that we need to see. The biggest thing is don't try to hide or don't try to show favoritism for a single style. Just ask yourself again, by the time you're done reading the plan of action, do you know who, what, where, and how this plan is going to take place, and are you able to accomplish that goal there as well? Okay, here again is kind of an example of another plan of action, again using the similar kind of format there. So members will meet to work on Operation Beautiful. Notes will be placed on the board in the Ag building. As you can kind of see with the flow of how we're kind of going through things here with the presentation, this is an example of a no in terms of not meeting all the different parts and pieces of the plan of action. I can argue that members is the who, but what members are we talking about? Whereas before they were telling us a specific committee was being able to work on that. We'll meet to work on Operation Beautiful. You can argue is the what by meeting is what they need to do. And then we're just kind of saying the how is notes there, and the board and the Ag building is kind of the where. Very vague and not necessarily super specific. So just make sure that as you're reading it again, if you don't think that you could 100% accomplish the goal after reading the plan of action, then it's probably a no for the statement there. For the outcome, evaluate and report. So the goals, the plan of actions, and the outcomes is going to be the big meat of the Form 2 for the application there. And in terms of this, one point that I like to highlight is that for your outcomes, it does not matter if you unmet a goal, if you met a goal, or exceeded it. 9 times out of 10, you're going to see that goals are exceeded, but that should, if someone unmet a goal, that should not influence your opinion as a judge on whether you say yes or no. Because the goal, or the major part of it, is if a goal was unmet, the circumstances or reasoning why is explained and what would be done differently next time to meet a goal. So if that goal was unmet, and they are able to provide the circumstances or reasoning why and what they do differently, you get the yes. If they just said it was unmet and that's the only explanation that they gave you, then that would justify a no. And same thing if it's exceeded. If they exceed the goal, we want to know by how much it exceeded. So some examples for the outcomes evaluated for the goal one. So we're still talking about the 600 notes for positive affirmations in the school. Bulletin boards in the school were used to display notes to students to take. Over 650 notes were written and shared. So our goal was 600. We got 650 notes. We did exceed it there, so that would be a yes. An example of no or low points would be we exceeded. Bulletin boards were used to display positive notes. So the idea is that when we're starting to look at the outcome of it, we really don't know what goal they're talking about. If our goal was 600 notes and we just say that we exceeded it because we displayed positive notes, well, we didn't actually show how much we exceeded that goal by. So again, if they say exceeded, they're able to say how much if you exceeded by. If it's unmet, you're able to explain why or what needs to be done differently next time to meet the goal. And if they met it, you're just able to say that that they were able to meet their goal there as well. So for the goals and plans of actions and outcomes of the activities, you'll do that 3 times for each activity, 9 times for each category, and 27 times for each application throughout each different part there. So hopefully that part was making some sense there. Advancing, so this on your in terms of your application is going to look different. And it's either going to be advancing leaders, advancing communities, or advancing agriculture. And so when we start looking at the advancing area, response clearly states the purpose of the activity and the benefit of the activity that had on leaders, community, or agriculture, so specific to that area. So Operation Beautiful, talking about the well-being and healthy lifestyles, that's under growing leaders, so we'd be advancing leaders. So if we look at the high points and midpoints, or what we would consider yes for our area here, we say that the purpose of Operation Beautiful was for members to learn about why positive character traits are important and how powerful pay-it-forward action can be. This activity advanced leaders by encouraging improvement in the mental well-being and self-esteem of our members. However, our chapter and community were also affected due to the positive pay-it-forward activities members conducted. So when we start looking at this, we are able to get the purpose of the activity and the benefit it had in the community. It vaguely discusses how it advanced, or it doesn't vaguely, it does discuss how it advanced the leaders because it encouraged improvement in mental well-being and self-esteem there. So it's kind of like it took all the parts of what we're looking for in the rubric, showed it to us there on that application there as well. For midpoints, again, Operation Beautiful advanced leaders because of the improvement in the mental well-being and self-esteem of our members. Our community was also affected. So this does still show us the purpose of the activity, and it does kind of show us the benefit that the activity had, maybe the benefits more in our community and not as specifically lined out as the benefit on advancing leaders, but it still has most of those parts there as well. And low points, what we would mark no, is an example of members felt better about themselves and thus advanced leaders. So it's very vague, it's general, it doesn't necessarily provide us a lot of information there as well. Impact, and again in our summary area, I know we only got about 3 more things left of the application and we're almost going to be done with this part here. The impact, again, does the response clearly identify and describe how the impact of the activity affected the intended audience. So again, we want to make sure the key part here is that there's some kind of intended audience there, and then are we saying that the response clearly identified and described how the impact affected them. So for a yes area, it says our members' actions truly made a large impact on each other, our school atmosphere, and our community. Community members enjoyed being recognized for their support and appreciated being on the receiving end of kind actions. Many members even continue to pay it forward. So the impact, when we start looking at the intended audience here. So to me, when I'm reading this, the intended audience is going to be our school and our community, or community members. You can even say that the intended audience started at our members. The impact that it's had is the idea that our members are spreading this atmosphere of positivity and paying it forward. 100% there. Members' actions made an impact on each other, our school atmosphere, and our community. Excuse me. Community members enjoyed being recognized for their support. So again, the midpoints basically say the exact same thing as the high points, just maybe not as thoroughly as in depth as the high points. And for low points, members' actions made an impact on each other and lots of people. Again, that doesn't really tell me what the impact was. Again, when the impact says, clearly identifies and describes how the impact affected someone, that low point area does not clearly identify. The last, or one of the final pieces here for Form 2 for the applications is related to the quality standard. And so when you go through that, again, on each part of the on the rubric in terms of Form 1, it has the descriptions of the different quality standards there. So it's important to make sure you know which part of the quality standard that you're looking at, because the idea is that as you're reading through things, you should be able to say, yes, this activity does match this quality standard. But really the only area that we're going to look at to see does it actually fit that quality standard is the part of the application that says related to the quality standard. So activities and benefits relate directly to the selected quality standard. Okay, one thing I look for is keywords from the quality indicator sheet. So healthy lifestyle is talking about improving the mental well-being and physical well-being of people. So when we start looking at this Operation Beautiful, as healthy lifestyles were encouraged through Operation Beautiful as students intentionally promoted confident mental well-being, self-esteem, and positive character traits. So without this activity here, students would not have been able to promote a positive mental well-being, which relates to the quality standard there. One of the biggest things that you just don't want to say, Operation Beautiful encourages healthy lifestyles. That doesn't necessarily tell me that it relates to the quality standard. There are specific keywords in each area that we can go over here in a little bit to look for. But the idea of like leadership's talking about the development of specific traits in terms of critical thinking and I'm having a brain fart right now. But healthy lifestyles promoting the mental and physical well-being of individuals there, environmental promoting the environment or the positive attributes of the environment there for people there as well, citizenship, making sure people are active citizens or become active citizens. The related quality standards should kind of match those keywords on the indicator. Makes it easier for you to say yes or no on that aspect there as well. Photo and photo caption. These are the last two parts for the application that you'll be taking a look at. So for the photo, a clear, high-quality photo that's illustrating the chapter's activity in action is displayed. Is there a photo or not? You'll see a lot of different types of photos. Basically, one of like my rule of thumbs for photos that we start kind of looking at is the idea is that as you read an application, you should have this mental image of what that activity looks like. Does that picture kind of match that image that you have inside your head there? So, for example, we're talking about Operation Beautiful, and I show you a picture of a kid just smiling eating a hamburger. You're probably not going to be able to make the correlation in between those two events there. And so kind of keep that in mind. A couple little things. Photo collages and screenshots are not permitted, so those should be an automatic no. If you happen to see those, or 0 points will be awarded for that side there. So just make sure you use your judgment in terms of a photo. So for a photo caption, when we start looking at it, a photo caption, I know a lot of us just want to kind of read saying like pictured above is this. But according to the rubric, we want to be able to see a photo caption that is able to still describe the activity and what's taken place there. So the idea is that if you only were able to see the picture and the photo caption, you would still be able to have the full, well-rounded picture of what that event was. So if we're taking a look at Operation Beautiful still, an attitude of gratitude was adopted by the members during our Operation Beautiful activities. Floriculture students enjoyed handing out positive poppies, positive notes attached to flowers to high school students, as well as creating and delivering 75 floral bud-based arrangements to teachers and program supporters. Positive character traits were reinforced and recognized when students grades pre-K through 12 conducted 552 acts of kindness, while over 600 positive notes were posted around the middle school and the high school buildings. So even without that picture, that photo caption is able to tell me what that event happened or what it was that took place. So that would be an example of a yes there as well. An example of a no. Pictured here, members are writing thank you posters to make sure others know how grateful the chapter is and how much we appreciate them. So it is describing the picture itself, but does it clearly describe what the activity was that took place? The answer was no. So just kind of be cautious of that side there as well when you start looking at it. Spelling and grammar. This one, again, we're still following the same format for the yeses and nos. If there's no errors or slight errors, or even the major errors as it's kind of laid out in the rubric, you're going to mark yes, as in it's good. Excessive errors, meaning that you had a very challenging time reading the application, that's going to be a no. Because again, we're kind of looking at, there's a certain number of yeses that applications need to get in order to be able to move forward there. So that right now is going over all the different parts of the application in terms of what you're going to be looking for. Now, I know that was a lot of information thrown really, really quickly at you guys, but if you keep in mind, you have the example of the rubric in front of you, and the yes is going to be the high and midpoint, and the no is the low or no point value there. That will kind of help guide you through the round one judging. The other aspect to take a look at is the deduction. So we're going to kind of take some time to go through these. Again, you're not going to be in charge of actually deducting the 25 points, but your job is to simply identify the potential deductions for the official committee to make that final decision on whether or not a deduction will take place. So some of these deductions, if the individuals or chapters use AET, they can't really happen. You have to physically make them happen. But the main deductions that we're going to look at is duplication of quality standards, no quality standard mark, replication of activity within application, activity date out of range, multiple activities in one, and collaborative activity replication. So what I'm pulling up right now is the actual deduction sheet that is linked to your score sheet. So you have this in front of you at all times. I will tell you that the most common deductions that you'll probably see are going to be activity date out of range, multiple activities are one, and potentially a collaborative activity replication. So those are going to be the three main ones. We're going to talk about all of them real quickly so you have that kind of understanding there, but those are the three main ones there. Again, the replication of activity within, or activity date out of range, multiple activities in one, and the collaborative activity replication. So multiple activities in one. If you take a look at, there's some examples here that we have kind of looking at it, but multiple activities in one basically means that in one activity, you're trying to throw multiple different activities with some kind of big overarching title to make it seem like it's one activity there. The way that you differentiate between multiple activities in one from being a deduction versus no deduction is the purpose of the different activities. So the different activities are building upon one another for the sole purpose of accomplishing one common goal, like that one event or that one goal could not happen unless all those activities work together, that is not a deduction. If you're telling me that the goal was to develop leadership skills of kids, so you're going to send them to national convention, you're going to have a plant sale in the spring, and you're going to offer alumni, work with the alumni to get scholarships. Those ones are kind of stretching the list of acceptability there. So multiple activity one example for a leadership goal, have at least 10 FFA members attend the 2017 National FFA Convention in October to explore more opportunities. Goal number two, to have at least 8 members attend and compete at the 2017 State Leadership CDEs. Goal 3, have 3 chapter officers attend the state leadership camp in July 2017. So yes, all 3 of these goals do pertain with developing leadership skills, but the idea is that these are 3 clearly different events taking place that we're trying to throw multiple things into one deal. They don't necessarily build on each other or help one another there as well. Again, some other activity or descriptions there for multiple activities in one. One of the big things I wanted to be able to point out to you guys in terms of deductions that we can look at here, when you look at activity date out of range, one of the things that get kind of overlooked is the actual dates of the application on the cover page. So most of the time, you'll see, like, you have the autonomy to be able to select whatever your start and end date's going to be for your application. So make sure that you do just take a glance at those activities or at the date ranges that are selected, because those can kind of change for each application, and it can also change how things are working there. I'll say that some people, in terms of activity date out of range, they make the simple mistake of they copy and paste an activity from the year before, and so it says 2018 instead of 2019. So this year's application is 2019 to 2020. So maybe they copied and pasted something over and it has the wrong year on it. Or it could even be something as simple as the activity date range is January 1st to December 31st, January 1st of 2019, December 31st of 2020, but they're talking about something that happened in November of 2018 as well. So again, just kind of keep those checks in mind. It could be a simple mistake, but if there is something that's taking place that's outside of the date range, that is a deduction there as well. I don't know why that did that there. And then in terms of the collaboration activity replication, again, that was the other one that would be probably one of the more common deductions that you'll see. And so the explanation is if a chapters collaborate on one activity, it is acceptable for each chapter to use the activity in respective national chapter applications. However, there should be different goals, plans of actions, etc., based on what each chapter was responsible for during that activity. So the biggest thing is that you can do stuff with other chapters. It is 100% encouraged, but we don't want to see just copy-pasted descriptions of goals and activities and what's happening there. So I will say that the collaboration activity is one of the ones that are more difficult to figure out in terms of a deduction, but it's the idea is that if you feel like you've seen the exact same application before in terms of a specific event or activity, and you're like, God, this just really sounds familiar, you probably have, and so it wouldn't be a bad idea to be able to flag that. And so, and again, acceptable examples, 2 chapters we're working on a local farm day for elementary students, and so as you're going through, again, you're not going to be able to see, both the chapters applications at the exact same time, but the idea is that they in this example here that, again, you have access to, is that both chapters have distinctly different goals or different roles in that activity there as well. The last one that I kind of want to talk about in terms of deductions is the replication of activity within the application. So this one for the deduction means that the activities in Form 2 were replicated. You can have an activity on Form 1 and use that same activity on Form 2, and so you don't have to have 15 individual activities on Form 1 and a whole completely different 9 activities on Form 2. That it's actually, you'll notice that most of the chapters out there are going to have the same 9 activities as they do on Form 1 as they do on Form 2. But if we, like for example, we did that Operation Beautification or Beautiful in the presentation there, we saw that in Healthy Lifestyles, and next thing you know, we're trying to bring that up in personal growth under Growing Leaders very well, or human resources in building communities. Okay, that's an example of a replication of activity within application, and that would be a deduction there. So if you happen to see the exact same thing on both in the same application, make sure you note that there as well. No quality standard mark. If you used AET, it's really hard to have no quality standard mark because it almost does it automatically for you there. But if you start reading it and all at the top of the page, it doesn't say growing leaders and leadership or building communities and environmental, that is no quality standard mark. And duplication of quality standard, meaning that you have the same quality standard written about twice in Form 2. Again, AET kind of prevents you from doing that. You have to do some extra work to make that happen. Excuse me. But it's very, very possible there. So kind of keeping those little things in mind. For helpful hints, a couple little things. One thing you kind of take a look at is on version number. So on all applications, at the bottom of the page, there is a version number, so you can see when they're printed out or sent it in electronically, are all pages the exact same. There really shouldn't be an issue with that, but it's something to kind of take a look at. The biggest piece of advice or helpful hint, follow the rubric and the score sheet there. They're designed to be able to help you out, and so make sure you're able to follow it. Again, to be able to mark yes on round 1, what we ask is that you are using the high and midpoint categories in the rubric to say yes, and the low or no point category to say no. One of the biggest helpful hints, don't overanalyze things. If this is your first time judging national chapter awards, don't sit there and be reading the exact same goal for the next 20 minutes because you're questioning if everything is there. If you're overanalyzing it, it's probably going to be a no is the question there. But at the end of the day, give the students the benefit of the doubt. These applications are great because they're compiling all the information that these students and the chapters have done throughout the year. And so we should be looking for ways to reward points, not deduct points from students in terms of our judging processes here in the National Chapter Award. And if the information is there, they earn the points. So don't try to get too over analytical of it. There is parts in the rubric that say clearly, and if you're trying to ask yourself, is it super, super clearly or just kind of clearly, give the kids the points there. You don't need to get too nitpicky there. But again, some of those helpful hints there that hopefully help you out. So at this time, this is what I got. Throw a bunch of stuff at you guys in a matter of 40 minutes, and I do appreciate you guys listening. Are there any questions that myself, Mindy, John can answer for the greater good while we're here? You can either type them in or kind of turn your microphone on there, and we can go through those. Going once.
Buddy, I would just like to take the opportunity to thank you for doing the webinar and showing everybody the ropes through the round one judging. I do see, can we get access to the presentation? Yes, we're recording the presentation and it'll be posted on our YouTube link and you can see it there. I don't see any other questions being typed in the chat box, but if anybody does have questions, now is the time to ask them. All of you round one judges should have your score sheets from Mr. Edgar with detailed instructions, but if you have any questions for any of us at this time, we're happy to answer them. Otherwise, we're going to let you go on this, I don't know if it's raining where you're at, but it's been a rainy Tuesday here in Central Illinois. Just want to thank you again for taking the time to join the call, and thank you, Buddy, for leading us through round one judging.
No problem there. And I also put my email in the chat there if you happen to have questions. I know Mindy and John are really good at helping out. If I can help out, I'll try to do my best to help you guys answer questions as well.
So Buddy just gave me permission to forward all question emails about National Chapter to him. So there we go, Buddy.
You can do that, Mindy.
All right.
Have at her.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you joining us today.
Oh, let's see. Manny, did you stop recording this by chance?